Welcome to In the Zone, number 92. I've got a up-and-coming St. Clair legend.
I hope.
Nick Black. Welcome, Nick.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, Michael Bebuck got us to get together. And
thank you for having him on as well. Hopefully he upheld the Saints standard. I think he did.
Yep. We're always here to talk. I find it interesting to talk to all facts of life with people of different persuasions and what they do for a living and all this information. So, Nick, you're not a St. Clair native, and we'll get to your St. Clair ties.
Sure.
But where were you born and raised?
So born and raised, Chesterfield, Michigan. Grew up in New Baltimore. Went to Anchor Bay, so not too far away, right down the street. And I spent a good bit of my youth, for better or for worse, in Marine City. A lot of my family was from there. Played my youth football there. Played a lot of youth baseball there. Played for Tony Scarcelli and Ron Glodich. In that aspect. But yeah, born and raised in New Baltimore. And it's funny how life works because, like many kids in this area, couldn't wait to get out of there, and guess what? Yeah, right back, just like all the rest of my friends, and we all left, and 5 years later, here we are.
Okay. So give us a little breakdown: mother, father, siblings.
Yeah. So I'm the son of a carpenter. My father, Mike, he's been in the area his whole life. He's in his 70s, still a carpenter. He's tried to retire probably 10 different times. His most recent attempt was last year, and he retired for, I think, one day, and then was back on a roof setting trusses the very next day. So he's, hardcore blue-collar dude. So he's a carpenter, and he also played softball for a living, and things are a lot different now, but played in a circuit called USSSA and used to, travel around and play softball, and did that and was a carpenter. And still is a carpenter.
A good carpenter never runs out of jobs to do.
No, and he's it's hardcore, man. So I spent many a summer, out there roughing in houses, framing in houses. I have no idea how he still does it to this day.
Age, you're right.
And they're battling. It doesn't matter if it's snowing; people still want stuff built. So he's, him and his crew are out there. And my brother, we'll talk about my brother in a minute. But myself and my brother are some of the only males on that side of the family that are not carpenters. So it's just a family of carpenters. And then my mother, Tammy Osterman's her maiden name, Black. She's from the area as well. She's New Baltimore, Chesterfield, actually Casco Township, born and raised. She, for the longest time, was a business owner. She owned a bingo business. So what she did is sold the daubers and the paper that you would, mark off, and the scratch-offs and the rip-offs and all that. So
what I find interesting about something like that is that is one of those nondescript items or things that somebody that doesn't know about it might go, well, how many of those can you sell? And you go, well, interesting you should see that, because, you take a look at the county and then the region and the area, and it's like,
Yeah, so many days after school, I would say probably 5 out of 7 nights a week, I, as a young lad at 7, 8, 9 years old, was in a bingo hall, slinging daubers to old ladies as I was walking up and down, and for me, I'm 8 years old. I thought it was normal. I thought everybody went to bingo, so I'd go into school the next day, go to second or third grade. Well, what'd you do last night? Well, I went to bingo, and the teacher would be going,
what the heck?
Yeah, you did what? But so it was. And then I'd say about the mid-2000s, she was wanting to get more involved in the school, so she's actually been the assistant athletic director, office manager, you name it, at Anchor Bay High School since then. So she shut down the bingo business after about 30-ish years in business, and then is just full-time in the athletics realm. And then I have a younger brother who he still lives in the area as well. He got the Brainiac genes that I, in fact, did not. He graduated. He went through an early college program through high school, and he went to a university called Kettering University, which is in Flint. He's a mechanical engineer for GM now, lives in the area, and he is, fun fact on him, he's an IFBB bodybuilding pro. He got his pro card last year, so very proud of him for that, because the dedication it takes to that is not easy. So that's kind of my family in a nutshell. We're all, typical Metro Detroit family, I would say. We're very down-to-earth, pretty blue-collar, hardworking family.
And last week you were wearing your Tiger hat or Tiger jersey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, very much so,
Yeah.
especially because they were playing the Guardians. Very sad that they couldn't
Yeah.
pull it out, but yeah, we're hardcore Tigers fans, hardcore sports fans. Growing up, again, it was always sports.
You know, we'll get onto other things, but
Sure.
I find it interesting, though, in watching those games and how little things carry such a huge impact on a game. And I look at the game where they lost, and you go, the suicide squeeze was basically like a thing of magic if you're a Guardians fan.
Yeah.
Because he only was safe by probably about that much.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't play it wrong, right? They played it correctly.
Right.
But the ball was in the spot that, you know, that was the difference in the game.
Yep, can't do anything about it. And that's, you know, baseball as in life, the small things matter, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
little details matter.
Yeah. Just the one sibling?
Yep, just
Okay.
one sibling, just one sibling.
Okay, so tell me about your high school, grade school and high school career.
Yeah, so through high school, I graduated from Anchor Bay in 2012, which doesn't seem that long ago now, but here we are 12 years later, almost 13 years later. So throughout high school, again, I feel like I was a pretty normal, average high school kid. Did my sports. I was a three-sport athlete in high school. Played football, played baseball. Actually, debatably, my best sport in high school was probably wrestling. Anchor Bay is a huge wrestling community, similar to Richmond and Elginak, you know, now. So big-time wrestling community. So I was, you know, very lucky to be raised kind of in that environment where sports were a thing, because I feel like sports give you something to buy into,
Sure.
right? And for me, I just look back, and that's why it's such a big part of what I do now. Sports teaches you so much more about life than just sports,
Sure.
you know, especially as, you know, you're going through those very impressionable years.
Yep.
You know, 11 to 18, 19 years
Right.
old. It's such a powerful thing. So through high school, football, baseball, wrestling, and I was a three-sport guy all the way through. Got hurt, had to miss wrestling my junior year, but I loved it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Again, the camaraderie, the life lessons, and it's funny.
Right.
The sport of it seems to be tertiary to everything else.
Right.
But because of those things, I strongly believe it helped mold me into what I am, you know, today. And I was very blessed to be around a lot of great people, a lot of great coaches, and experienced a lot of failure, but I also experienced some success too,
Sure.
which again, it's funny how it
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Full
part of the
circle.
long game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've always said, if you take a look at our area, and you could go from, say, you know, down by where you Elginak, Anchor Bay, all the way up through Port Huron, include Richmond and
Yeah.
that whole area. A lot of impressive coaches over the last, say, in your lifetime.
Oh yeah. Oh, very much
At
so.
different sports.
Very much so. All across the board. Like I said, I got to play baseball, and for me, I grew up very, very good family friends with the Scarcelli family. Anthony's what I would consider a cousin of mine. My mother, his mother, were Anchor Bay grads, stood up at his weddings, the whole nine. So, like for me, everybody had a Tony Scarcelli in their life, right? So I'd be going to Marine City football practices at 7, 8 years old because I just stayed the night there, and you see how a guy like that runs practice, and then, oh, by the way, Coach Glodich is right there too,
Right.
and you're watching these guys coach, and you're going, well, everybody's got to see this, but in reality, it's such a special thing to
Right.
be exposed to at a young age. But again, it just goes to show, for every community, there is a Scarcelli or a
yeah.
Glodich or, you know, men of and
Oh,
women
yeah.
of that stature
Yeah.
in those communities. So I think it's a great thing. And then speaking of coaches in the area, coming through high school, that's how I got to know Coach White. I was on a summer team with, and summer baseball has changed exponentially
Yep.
in the last bunch of years, you know, but 15, 16 years ago when I was playing, I played with a couple of guys from the St. Clair area that are well known. Joel Seddon, Jake
Yep.
Cronenworth were on my summer team. So I got to know Coach White through that endeavor as well. So again, just great coaches
Yep.
across the board. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, like you just alluded to, in all sports, the level of coaching in this area has just become
And
strongly
several of those
elevated.
coaches could have went from baseball to coaching soccer
Oh, yeah.
or coaching football.
Yep, and some do.
Yeah.
So you look at, I just use Coach White as an example.
Yeah.
We just played the Coach White game, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately came out on
Yeah.
the wrong side of it, but close.
Yeah.
I think Coach White would have been proud of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but he's a guy who who did multiple things.
Right.
You look at, again, was talking about Coach Glodich. I mean, what didn't that
Didn't
guy
he
coach?
coach,
That? Did he coach cross? Cross country might be
Right.
the only thing he didn't coach. And
Right.
I don't know. Probably did at
Couldn't
some point.
fit in his schedule.
Right. Yeah. So it's all about that community give back. And again, I think I learned that from the right people that I was surrounded by in my upbringing, for sure.
The other thing I find interesting is what's changed today as compared to maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, was that your arch rival was your nemesis, and you didn't want to face them, you didn't want to, or you wanted to play them, and if you win, you wanted to see them. If you lost, you didn't want to see them.
Right.
But today, it's different because you might have 3 kids that play in your team that also play with 2 kids from Marine City, 2 kids from Clair, and 1 from Marysville.
Yeah, yeah. In the summer leagues, and a lot of kids are specializing more in these sports, and they're doing the camps and doing the specialized training. And like you said,
Right.
if we got a Marine City kid, a St. Clair kid, and a Marysville kid,
Right.
and they got to drive to Waterford for training,
Right.
they're carpooling anyways to
Together.
go out there. So
Yep.
yeah, there is. It's becoming. And we don't see it as much in our area, but it's becoming less and less community based,
Right.
because of, for better or for worse, I guess, is to be determined. But it's becoming less community based and more, I guess, regionally based, because of what you just alluded to.
I've always thought some of these big schools, like say a Dakota or a big school like that, wouldn't it be interesting to take the best out of Marine City, best out of St. Clair, best out of Marysville, then go play them?
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, and we would have success.
Because their schools are big like that.
Right. And well, I mean, shoot, you take all 3 of our school enrollments, the schools you just said. I don't know if we equal a Dakota, but
Right.
I do know that a couple years ago we beat them 17-2
Right.
with our, with our 700. So
Yeah,
what, I like our odds.
Yeah. So you graduated from Anchor Bay
Yep.
High School. What after that?
So I was lucky enough to go, and best thing I ever did, and I look back very fondly on this time. I went and played my first couple years of junior college baseball at Grand Rapids Community College, and coming out of high school, never heard of it. Never knew what junior college even was.
Right.
I had no idea. I knew what Macomb Community College and St. Clair Community College was. That was it. Never knew that they had sports.
Right.
Never knew anything about it because you only see the bright shining lights. You
Right.
knew what Vanderbilt
Oh,
was.
yeah.
You knew what LSU was. You knew what.
Right.
You're like,
Michigan,
I'll play
Michigan
there.
State,
Yeah, you knew those. But then you also looked at it and I'm probably not good enough to play
I'm
there.
not 6'4", 220.
Correct. I don't throw 96. Like,
Right.
those were not in my,
Right.
repertoire. But I was very blessed enough throughout my high school years. So I alluded to, I played summer ball with Jake and Joel, and Joel's brother was one of our coaches. And our staff there, who, again, great men, gentleman named Randy Payne, who unfortunately has passed away a couple of years ago, and Dick Schoenberg, who still coaches high school baseball at Utica. They were very upfront with me and very honest with me. I had a great high school coach named John Graybill, who, again, was very honest with me, and I needed that. I thought I was good enough to go to those places.
Sure.
Was not.
Right.
Had no business. I was good enough to get the job done. I was good enough to play college baseball, not at that level yet.
Right.
So I went to Grand Rapids Community College, was lucky enough to be an All-American as a freshman there. We made it to the College World Series my freshman year. I got to travel all around the country, play in front of thousands of people, play against some of the very best teams at any level. And it was, just one of the most phenomenal experiences I've ever had, both on the academic side of things and the baseball side of things. I actually, after my freshman year, I went to Western Michigan University to play because, again, I was feeling like I was ready
Next
now.
level.
I was ready, and I thought I was ready out of high school, but then after experiencing my time in junior college, I wasn't ready because I seen what real baseball players were, and let's just say 17, 18-year-old Nick, I wasn't ready, and I had great people around me, like I said, telling me probably not there yet.
Right.
But I didn't want to hear it. I was a kid.
Right.
So, Grand Rapids Community College for 2 years, spent some time at Western playing, and then finally got sick of the cold. And I said, let's see how far south I can go. So, due to being lucky and being in the College World Series, which is a televised event and all that kind of stuff, I got contacted by a school, which was by happenstance called Northwood University in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Yep.
And it's since been bought out by a school called Kaiser University. Yep. And they called me and said, hey, we've seen you playing in the College World Series. Would you be interested on a visit? I said, yep, sounds good to me. So flew down there, had probably the best workout I ever had in my life, was doing stuff that, again, I knew I couldn't consistently do, but I had a great workout. Really got along well with their coaches, and so it was about 2 weeks later. I was down in West Palm Beach, and then again, it was the next wake-up call for me.
Everybody's good.
Oh my gosh, I thought I was great. I was a Division I bounce back. I played in the College World Series. I was an All-American, man. My head was this big. I was, chest out. I'm ready. And then we took one infield out. We practiced once. And I seen how some of these guys moved, and I seen how they warmed up, and I seen, I looked around and said, I better find it. I caught, and I seen the first catcher who was a first-team All-American the year before at the NAI level. I seen him take one. He did one throwdown, and I said, I better find a new position.
Like
I said, this ain't gonna work. So that's when I started playing first base and some third base because I was the backup catcher there. So I had to learn how to assimilate with others at a very high capacity. Because at GRCC, most guys were regional, right?
Sure.
Down there was 40 guys on the team. Only 10 of us were from America. I didn't speak Spanish.
Dominican.
Dominican, Cuba, Mexico, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, you name it. And these guys were good. These guys were really good. And again, my head was this big. I went down there thinking, you know what, I'll be all right. And then I seen what real baseball players
Couple days later.
Oh, yeah, a couple
Air
days
comes out of the
later.
balloon.
I came down to earth real quick, and I'll never forget it. I called my dad. I said, Dad, I don't know if I'm good enough to play down here. He said, what do you mean? He said, you'll be all right. I said,
come on down.
Yeah, I said, you got to come down and watch this because these guys are insane. He goes, well, how are they? Pitchers, starting rotation down there was a transfer from Oklahoma. The guy never lost a college game in his college career. Transfer from Kansas State, transfer from UNLV. That was at an NAIA school. Right. And those are pretty big-time programs. I'm going, oh, boy, man, this isn't good.
Now, in that capacity, it's just like I'll say, TV does not do the game justice.
No.
Right?
Not at all.
You can't see that first step, the agility going right and left, right? So, the question is it more of a practice in getting perfect, or is it more they're born with some special set of, probably a combination of both, right?
A combination of both, but what I will say is it's a different mindset, especially for the international guys. In the NAIA, where I was at, you were getting a little bit of a stipend, kind of, and for us, it was going towards our rent or
Sure.
food or whatever. For a lot of my teammates, and now these guys are, I consider them brothers because I still talk to them almost every day. For them, it wasn't just college. It wasn't just, I get to play baseball. For them, it's a way of life, and it's their chance
To make it out.
Yeah. Which puts a whole different perspective on it. So these guys, yes, they were just ungodly gifted, ungodly talented, but after practice, they go eat and go back to practice.
Sure.
And for me, I'm, again, naive. I go down there and I'm playing practice. Oh, thank goodness. I get to go home. We get to, eat some dinner, do some homework. I'm good. These guys are going back to the gym. These guys are going back to the field. And
breathing it, sleeping it.
There was no other option.
Yeah.
That just was. That is how it was. And I didn't know any better. And after about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of fall ball, it caught on. I said, oh my gosh, that's why these guys are so good. And to no surprise, we had a very, very good team. Again, was blessed that year, made it to the College World Series again. At the NAIA level, got to travel all around and play in front of, thousands of people and got to see some of the best baseball players ever, on planet Earth.
Sure.
That year, we beat Division I teams, we beat Division II teams. I mean, I'd put that team up against anybody. But to your point, you don't realize how fast the game is when you're watching on TV. You don't realize that some of these guys, it's like playing a video game. They tell you, hey, move your glove 2 inches to the right, and sure enough, it's there. And they know they can do it on command every time at high velocity, at high capacity, at high intent day after day after day. And you think about the professional game, and that's these guys all day, every day.
Just
and for me, in my mind, to think that there's even levels up higher than that is incredible. So any which way, got done with my junior year, and unfortunately the school at that point in time got shut down. We got called into a big gym, and the president of the university flew up. It was owned by Northwood in Michigan. President flew down there, and said, guys, the school will cease to exist on June 1st. This was May 15th. Right. And we all looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, and especially all of my, teammates and stuff that were international. Now for me, in the back of my mind as this meeting's going on, thinking, you know what, I might have an out here because I'm from Michigan. But it's hard to tell a guy from Venezuela that you're going to go from West Palm Beach to Midland, Michigan, which is where Northwood's at. So unfortunately, the school ceased to exist on June 1st. They didn't find out until a couple of weeks later that Kaiser had bought it out. But at that point, I had to make a quick decision. I was going into my senior year. Baseball, if I was going to get to continue on or not, was up in the air. So I opted. They gave us a chance to go free and clear to Midland, Michigan, and I knew a couple of teammates actually from Marine City that I played with growing up that were at Northwood in Midland. And so it was actually a pretty seamless transition for me academically. Everything transferred, and I was able to, again, as a 21, 22-year-old young man, getting the rug pulled out from under you from South Florida to
talk about real world, right?
Yeah. To Midland, Michigan was tough, but again, everything happens for a reason. So I ended up getting to play out my senior year at Northwood in Midland, and again, it's just funny how everything works out because I got to play for an elite coaching staff there. Had a great experience there, and finished out my career at Northwood in Midland. And so I look at my college career as a whole, and very blessed. I got to play for, at the time, the winningest junior college coach ever, Mike Couples, who's in the Hall of Fame now. I got to play for Jeremy Kennedy, who's the winningest NAIA coach right now. He's the head coach at Loyola. And then I got to play for Jordan Bischel my senior year, who, after my year at Northwood, he coached at Northwood for 2 more years, went to Central Michigan, won 3 MAC titles, made it to Super Regional, again on TV, beat the University of Miami, beat Mississippi State, and now he's a head coach in the Big 12 at the University of Cincinnati. So at the time, in the perspective of a 21-year-old kid, it feels like the world's ending. But then you step back and you look at it and you go, man, all right, it kind of happened for a reason. There's lessons to be learned from it, which I certainly did learn my lessons. And then so after my career ended at Northwood in Midland, I had again, I'm very blessed to have had honest people around me. One of my coaches growing up was a man named Chris Newell. He was a scout for the Mets, ended up coaching professionally for a bunch of years. He was actually a coach in the USPBL. And it was the first year that it was going to be in operation when I was graduating. So I called him and said, hey, what do you think? So I went out there, had my workout, and I'd trained with him, a bunch of times growing up. And again, I had a good college career, but he told me, listen, man, he's like, you can try, but I got an idea where this is going. He said, I don't want to sound rude, I don't want to sound mean, but I got an idea where this is at. And again, looking back on it, at the time, I'm like, oh man, this guy's he's a jerk. I can't believe he's saying this. He was right. He was 100% right. I look back at film on myself. I look back on, his unconventional, goofy, you name it. I wasn't going to cut it. So at that point in time, that's where my baseball career kind of ended. Luckily was able to be exposed to that, be around the professional game, be around, again, another great coach, but luckily he was, as many were before him, very honest with me, which I appreciated.
So then you graduate from Northwood.
Yep.
What kind of degree?
So I have my bachelor's of Business Administration in Business Management. And like I said, like most kids, I don't want to live in Midland, Michigan, so I promptly got right back in my car as soon as Chris told me probably ain't going to happen, and I drove right back down to West Palm Beach, Florida. So I worked down there for 2 years at a, again, phenomenal company, phenomenal leadership. And it's funny, as I find, and that's why I'm such a proponent of sports, when I got into the real world, all the lessons I learned playing baseball, wrestling, football, directly translated. Directly. So I worked for a company called Total Truck Parts where I did a lot of, call it process engineering, sales, service, distribution of heavy-duty truck parts, if you will. So a lot of military work, police work, fire trucks, ag, and things of that nature. And again, I learned to grow up.
Let's talk about the things because this happens a lot where people go into different things like that. And you say it's transferable. Tell us what's transferable.
So it's funny because I ended up at that company being in a role where I was hiring a lot of people as well. And that's where I got the answer to those questions. Being able to show up on time.
Yep.
Being able to show up regularly.
Yes.
Being able to handle a bad day, because you're going to have
Right.
bad days,
Yes.
but as a kid, you don't realize
Right.
that.
No, yeah.
Being able to handle a bad day, being able to handle negative results, and being able to handle negative pressure that may come about in a business capacity, in a life capacity. Being able to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Being able to work with a team, be collaborative with those around you.
Right. Which you deal with every day in just about any business there is in the world.
100%.
Yeah.
In you're training that inherently through sports. You just don't, it's just not realized because it's an inherent thing. You're expected to do it. But as you and I both know, you get out into the real world in the working capacity, and some people miss the memo on that, or weren't as blessed as we may have been to have those people around us that were, implementing those laws into us when we were young. So in a nutshell, I think those are some of the biggest payoffs.
Yeah, I think another one too is just the structure.
Yes.
The ability to have a structure
Yep.
and a plan and working that plan through.
Yes.
So it's like playing baseball.
100%.
You don't just tell kids to go out and play catch or go bat against somebody. No, you get structure about how you're going to play, what you're going to do, how you're going to structure. It's like, I'm not a coach, but I'm sure batting stance, where you're holding the bat, how you're going to swing, all those things, but as a structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And it's all part of a bigger game too. It's all part of a grand scheme of things, which again, some people miss the memo on and don't quite get. But those of us who were lucky enough to have that upbringing.
Something you said earlier reminded me of a conversation I had with a gentleman that played pro golf. And playing pro golf or playing baseball at a high level is similar in the sense that I asked him, I said, well, can you play with the world's top players on a daily basis? He says, well, I can play with them on a daily basis, but I can probably beat them 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
He said it's the consistency aspect that the elite athlete can just carry that consistency and not the ups and downs, right?
Yeah, they're so good no matter the capacity, no matter the situation. So we talk about guys like Cronenworth. And so on my summer team growing up, again, very different world than it is now. 9 out of 13 of us went on to play pro ball in some capacity, and there's another guy that's still in the MLB that was on that team. He's one of the closers for the Yankees. His name's Anthony Misevich, and so I still catch for him in the offseason. I catch all of his bullpens, and he's a guy who's been in the bigs for 6 years now. He's hurt right now, so he's not on their postseason roster, but catching his bullpens. This guy's same age, he's in his 30s now, and he's been doing it.
Oh, since you were 12?
I've been catching him. We grew up together. We went to the same high school together, and it's been that same. It feels like he's the same and operates at the same capacity for that entire duration of time. I can't do that.
Well, and that's a mental thing too.
100%.
To keep that
laser focus no matter what. And again, to your point earlier, you said, are some guys born with it or some guys train with it? A little bit of both.
Right.
Yep. Some guys got it. Some guys try to train it, but you might just not have it. And so that's the most impressive thing.
Now, it's an interesting thing I took away from I talked to Mr. Cronenworth's father, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we were talking about baseball at that level, having a son that plays at that level. And the one thing that really stuck with me was in this pro sport, he says they're playing second shift. Now, a lot of people, I've even had that conversation, but what do you mean? Well, they are playing basically an afternoon shift. So their game starts at 7 o'clock, goes till 10 o'clock. That's the afternoon. It changes a lot in the psychology of just your day, your daily routine, right? And so you probably experienced that a little bit in college, right?
Yeah, it's a whole paradigm shift. And so even pro guys, college guys, I would say it's not second shift, it's a double shift. In both capacities.
Correct.
So regular college schedule, college athlete schedule, and again, I have a very unique outlook at it because I played at a ton of different schools, but one thing remained true is it's all day.
You get up in the morning, you go to class.
In pro baseball, they don't just show up for the game,
right?
They don't just, it's 7 o'clock, I'm going to get here at 6:30 and here we go. No, they're there at 10, 11 in the morning, and they put a 6-7 hour day in because they're lifting, their nutrition's on, their treatment's on, their BPs, their individual skill work, team skill work. They practice before the games. So they're working double shifts, and to be able to do that and sustain it for whatever the duration of your career is unfathomable.
Not as easy as one might think.
Oh, it's incredible. And so I have this conversation a lot with a lot of our guys at St. Clair, and I help as many people as I can with the recruiting process because I want to play college sports. Well, do you really want to play college sports? Because college sports is weightlifting from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Class, to your point, from 7 to 1. Practice from maybe get lunch in between class and practice. Yeah, 2 until it gets dark. And then, as I alluded to in my Florida story, the good ones go back to practice, or you got study hall, or you got weightlifting after, or it's a 12 to 14 hour day every day. And that's the bare minimum. Right. That's just to get you in the door. That doesn't guarantee success. That's just your ticket in. And the pro guys, they take it even further. And
you haven't talked about scouting or any of that, watching film or any of that either.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a whole other variable. And that's, you look back and think about how you did. You go, I don't know how I ever managed my time to do that, but it's all when it's all it's inherent.
Yep. So then you graduated from college.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then what?
Yep. So after I got done at Total Truck Parts in Florida, life kind of has a funny way of working its way back around. What ended up happening was, so I grew up, like I said, I was the son of a carpenter. However, I also grew up in the manufacturing business. So my family, on my mother's side, owns a company called Selective Industries, which is the third building on the right off of King Road in Marine City. You got the Subway gas station, you got Blue Water, and you got Selective. So because of the experience that I was in, and I grew up in that plant as well, doing, sweeping the shop floor. Obviously I wasn't running a press or anything, but I was, being helpful as I could. I knew the industry, or I knew the shop layout, and then I was starting to learn the industry on the front side of things. So I got a call from family saying, hey, we could probably use some help. And it was at that time, again, I was still a kid. I was, 23, 24 in South Florida. I started looking at life stuff. Say, okay, well, I'd like to buy a house someday. Look at the house prices in South Florida. Couldn't buy a tent for $500,000. So I said, okay, that might not work. And then you start looking at cars down there, and on my road, it was the Bentley dealership, the Aston Martin, and I was driving a Ford Edge. Right. And probably wasn't going to be affording any of that. And, you started thinking about what you really wanted in life. And one thing that the big disconnect that I was missing is I wasn't around kids, I wasn't coaching down in Florida. And that was the first time in my life, because growing up, I was always coaching, I was always doing camps, volunteering, whatever. I didn't have that outlet in Florida. And so I started looking at it, grand scheme of things. So moved back about 2018, early 2018, went to work for the family, and was at Selective Industries up until 2021. 2022 is how long I was there for, in a process engineering role, project engineering, call it customer service, manufacturing, sale. It's a tier 3 automotive shop. A little bit of everything. Yep. I'd sweep the floors. I'd be sweeping the floors one minute. I'd be under a machine the next minute. I'd be on a call hoping to cut a deal, the next minute. It's that kind of shop. So while I was doing that, I was also coaching, and that is where, wholeheartedly, that's where my fulfillment is. So I was able to coach, I was able to work there. On the coaching side of things, in 2018, as soon as I moved back, a new regime took over at SC4. I knew their coach from my time as a player here. He reached out and said, would you ever be interested in coaching college baseball? I moved back, I said, yeah, absolutely. I think, that could work really good. So I started as a volunteer assistant in 2018. And I ended up working there for till 2022, early 2022, and I got promoted all the way from volunteer assistant to the recruiting coordinator to the assistant head coach of a college program in about a 5-ish year span of time. So that was very fulfilling, because we took a program that was on the verge of shutdown, to be honest, that had 16 guys, and by the end of it, were we winning national championships? No. We didn't have the capacity to do that, but we had a sustainable program. We were around the 500 mark, which for us was success. We had 46 guys in the program, which still a little bit light for college numbers, but was sustainable, and we were turning out guys to the next level. So while I was doing that, I also was still kind of am the pseudo director at Hits Baseball. Got roped into that by my guys at SC4, so worked for a guy named Rob Stevenson, who I know Big Mike was talking about last week. Again, very, very good guy, influential baseball guy in the area. So I was able to do the basically training, curriculum, scheduling, team training, individual stuff, anything I could to be around and help out. And it didn't matter if it was a 6-year-old who was taking their first lesson or some of the pro guys that I now work with. Anything in any capacity, that's where the fulfillment's at. So I've spent the last bunch of years doing that, and then I was, again, lucky beyond all belief to get involved in professional baseball again in a capacity. One of my former college teammates got into the professional scouting world, needed some help, so I was able to do some scouting in the Braves organization as well up until COVID. Because I was at college baseball games and I was in the area coaching summer baseball and just around a lot of baseball, so I was able to get into that as well. So kind of a man of many hats. And then 2022 is when I was able to really kind of figure out and zone in on what I wanted to do with life, and I was able to take my professional experience, because I was also running the co-op program at Selective Industries, where we were hiring a lot of kids out of Marine City, St. Clair, East China, Marysville, what have you. And the co-op director, the CTE director at Anchor Bay reached out to me and said, hey, we have a position open, would you ever be interested? And I looked at the hours that a school is open relative to the manufacturing world, which is, again, 12 hours, 14 hours a day, every day. I said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So I was able to go over to Anchor Bay and take over their engineering department. And now I also run the co-op program there as well. And
when you say engineering department, explain what that means in a high school.
So Anchor Bay is heavy CTE focus, career tech ed focus. So I set all the curriculum, I do all of the classes that are there, and I do a lot of work with the middle schools and elementary schools on cohesion kind of up through the system, getting kids either certified in some type of engineering cert, or getting them hands-on experience, or getting them whatever it is that they need to know.
And I would assume, you can tell me, but that seems like that was a program years ago, went away, and now is back.
And again, I have a very unique experience because I've been on the professional side of this. There is such a lack of manual workers, I guess, trades workers, trainable workers for sure. And you're right. I think the workplace in general has looked at it and said, we need to really, kind of pump the numbers up into this line of things. And it's funny because year over year you're seeing more and more buy-in with it. And I tell all my kids this too, because college is expensive, right? Sure. I tell all my guys for baseball this, I tell all kids that I work with for this. If you don't know what you're going to college for, it's probably best to hold off on that for a minute. Go to work or go to junior college, because with the MTA now and with some of the agreements, it doesn't cost very much, and you're able to, start real life, not drowning in debt. So I think that's why there's been more of a push towards the trades for sure. Again, school's great. Right. If you know you want to be a doctor, you probably need to go to school.
Architect,
exactly,
lawyer,
exactly. Yeah. But going to college for underwater basket weaving, it's probably in your best interest to go to trade school or to go to work or to go to junior college first.
Right. So. My next question to you is, I'm going to skip it because we've talked about it. When did you decide to? Your whole thing has been focused around baseball for quite some time, right?
Really, I think about that question a lot. And coaching baseball, to me, isn't really about coaching baseball. And working in schools and working with kids isn't really about working in schools and working with kids. Coaching isn't about coaching the sport. It's about the impact that you can have on others at a high level. And for me, it's always been about how you can impact the most people that you can. My pathway to that just so happens to be baseball because of my background. I volunteered as a wrestling coach. I volunteered as a football coach. I volunteered, running career nights, doing mentorship programs. I run a pseudo recruiting service, except it's the worst recruiting service in the world because I don't take a dime to do it. It's about how you can impact the most people that you can in a positive manner. And again, I think back to all of those that kind of helped me with my upbringing. Sure. And I had the right people around me. I didn't realize it at the time, of course.
And what I find interesting about all these types of stories like this is that in these scenarios with a baseball team, how many kids on a varsity baseball team roughly?
15 on a good year.
15.
Yeah.
A lot of people just, if they're watching a game in March, April, May, go, man, that's a lot of hard work that kid's putting in at third base, first base. And I look and I say, well, when you look at the whole team, though, there's other kids that put just as much time in. Maybe they're not starters, but they're part of the whole process
Yep.
in the team. Because if you don't have that number 10, number 11, number 12, where are you?
Yeah. Well, funny you say that. In our district final last year, we had 16 kids involved in that game. 16. And so it goes back to your conversation. We had that conversation a couple of minutes ago where you have to learn to be a part of something bigger. You have to learn to be a part of a grand structure. And again, I always keep that frame of mind that, again, coaching baseball really isn't about coaching baseball, and I'm very blessed with all of the men that I have on my staff. They're all men that I want around my son when he's older. They're all men that are community driven, that are servant leaders, that know how to that know how to put others before themselves. Because we're not coaching baseball players, we're coaching future adults.
Sure.
We're coaching future community members.
Yes.
We're coaching future citizens, that we're going to be around, that are going to be tomorrow's leaders. So
better off we train them today, the better off we are tomorrow.
100%. And I truly, that is the only reason I coach. And all the guys that I have on staff, that is why they coach. And all the guys, I've again been very blessed with great coaches before me. That's why they coach.
Sure.
And you look at a guy like Coach White, who in his 50 years of coaching baseball took maybe $10, for 50 years total.
Right.
He wouldn't let me pay him, as an assistant. He didn't want it, but he put in more time than anybody. Why? Had nothing to do with baseball in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So long way to answer your question, but why I coach baseball, that's just my avenue to have an impact, I guess, on as many future adults as possible. And I think that's why I was so inclined to go into the school system as well. Because a couple of reasons. One, you can impact kids, and two, on the professional side of things, you've seen where the labor force is at. So I could put boots on the ground because I think I can help. So that's a roundabout way of answering that.
So you are the St. Clair varsity baseball coach.
I am.
Is this, you're entering your, coming around in spring 4th?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, 4th season, and I love every second of it. And again, I've been tied in with the St. Clair community going back to Jake and Joel. We're talking 2009. In Marine City, East China School District, community, even further before that. So very, very familiar. And this community is so passionate about its baseball programs. It's very passionate about raising future adults.
Right.
I hear horror stories from my colleagues around the state on baseball programs, on communities, on just what goes on. And in the St. Clair baseball program, we have none of that. Because I think everybody's on board that it's about raising
the team and
raising young men. Yeah, it's about raising young men, and it's not really about coaching a baseball team necessarily. Of course it is, and of course in games things get heated. Whatever, that's part of it. That's how you learn, right? But at the end of the day, it's about developing young men, and I think that's why this community is so great and why I'm so lucky to be here. I got the long story short. I used to run a summer team, and the summer team I had the same group of kids from when I moved back in 2017, 2018 until they all graduated high school in 2022. At the time when it started, 6 of those guys were St. Clair guys. So when Coach White stepped back, and we didn't know why at the time, turned out because of his health, a couple of those families got a hold of their AD at the time, which was Mr. Rutledge, and they knew I was in the area. They knew, I could probably be enticed to go to the high school level. And to be honest, I was very nervous at first, going from the college level where it's all year, you're recruiting, you're scouting, I was very, very nervous, but it couldn't have been a better fit, and it couldn't have been a better community to come into. So I came to the high school, at St. Clair with a lot of familiarity with a lot of the kids that were in the program, a lot of the families that were in the program, and a lot of the staff members because of my co-op experience, working as well. And then it helped that I lived in Marine City and I lived in Casco too. So, I was a community member, So going into our 4th go-around here, and again, we're in the business of raising men, and I'm very blessed because I have great men on staff who, these are the guys you call at 2 o'clock in the morning to come help you if you're on the side of the road. These are the guys that you call to help, move furniture like I just did with Big Mike 2 weeks ago. These are the guys that's the kind of men that they are. And they do such a great job of helping raise our guys. And you look at the throughput of where our guys are at, we have, and I'm very proud of this one, of our guys that want to play college baseball, we have a 100% placement rate right now of those guys going to play college baseball. So it's a destination where if you want to play college baseball, this is a great place to be because you're going to play college baseball if you put the work in, if you have the right ethics, if you have the grades, if you have, all the stick-to-itiveness. And then our guys that didn't want to go, that didn't want to play college baseball, they're all succeeding in their own measures of life as well. And they oftentimes come back to the field. They're shooting us text messages, phone calls. Some member of the staff is in communication with them. And again, now that first group that we were through with, they're all now in that 21, 22-ish range, and they're turning into young men. And now they're really calling us with questions, except it's not baseball questions. Now it's life stuff. Yep. And that is by far the most fulfilling part of the job, has been seeing that growth and that community buy-in and that just program development. And again, it didn't start with us. We had Coach White before us, Coach Mel before us. And so it's been, that foundation has been laid. It was just up to us to nourish it and nurture and keep it going.
It's got to be an exciting time going into your fourth year, because now you're dealing with kids that are seniors that were eighth graders when so you led them right up to the point of here we go. Final season for the seniors.
We have very high expectations this year, and again, we have some great baseball players, but we have really, really good kids, regardless of baseball. So that's what we're the most excited about. That's what I'm the most excited about. So have a couple of kids on the team now. I mentioned that my first year that I took over, there was a lot of families that I had already known. St. Clair's a small town, right? So there's a lot of siblings that are involved. Some of these kids I've known since they were 10, 11 years old. And so it's been the pleasure of a lifetime watching them grow into young men, and here they are.
Playing 8 years ago when they were over in the sandbox playing baseball with their buddies.
That's exactly what they were doing. They were playing, at the Little League fields, or they were bringing popsicles, to their brothers. And now these are the guys that are dudes going to, future college baseball players. So you're absolutely correct. It's been so fun watching these guys grow and develop and, again, flourish just as young men, and grow into young men. And again, the one commonality is we have great kids. We have awesome kids, awesome families, and watching all their families grow and develop with their sons through the journey of what baseball is.
Now, we're awesome. October right now speaking. Is there a training program that goes on for varsity baseball October, November, December, January? Or how does it tell me?
Yeah, so we actually just had our first leadership meeting with our leadership council of the players on Saturday to start getting things rolling. So very, very soon, within the next couple weeks, we're going to be starting up our off-season programs. Last year, and again, trial and error, we jumped the gun. We started a little bit early. We started mid-September-ish with our off-season training, just small four-man groups, what we're allowed to do, very small stuff, but I think we started a little too early last year because most of our guys in small town, they're playing football, playing basketball, playing fall baseball with their summer programs. Most of our guys are doing summer program training and what have you, so I think it was just too much. So we bumped it back a little bit this year, and again, it's just going to be small group training and some stuff like that, but yeah, it's I would say if you want to be a good high school baseball player, it's a good 10-month endeavor. You got to give some time off to give your body a rest and whatever, but you got to be getting after it, especially with the league we play in, especially with the schedules that we play against, the competition we see. You got to be ready. The days of hey, it's baseball season, now I can play baseball.
Long gone.
Long gone.
Yeah. One more thing. St. Clair Little League is a huge program, and it's been a huge program for, 50 years. Longer than that, but I'm just saying, so that's a huge feeder for you. Yeah. So we have a phenomenal relationship with the Little League. We actually have members of our staff that are high school and Little League coaches, and then some of our other coaches at the high school, not even baseball coaches, are coaches over there that coach baseball in several capacities. So we run our free camps for them. We're over there all the time in the summer. We're trying to tie in with them as much as possible because, again, that's our future, right? Again, it's different in maybe other communities, but for us, we know where those kids are going to end up at, right? Exactly.
Whereas in Macomb or Oakland County, it might be a different story because you don't even know who's in your grade, let alone.
If you're Warren or St. Clair Shores or Sterling Heights, the best ball players might not be going to that public school, might be going to De La Salle.
Correct.
Brother Rice.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we know, it helps us, tenfold because we
Yes.
got a good idea of what's coming in. So again, we jumped the gun a little bit early last year, but
Mm-hmm.
it's because we knew that we were going to have 17 incoming freshmen from what the
Okay.
Little League number said or about.
Sure.
So yeah, we have an awesome relationship with them. We do as much community tie-in with them as we can. We had several camps last year. We have free coaches clinics where we invite their coaches to come. We have open practices at the high school where their guys can come watch just to see how we do things. So as much cohesion as possible we try to get. And then it pays off too, because when we have our home games, our district game against Armada last year, it felt like there was 10,000 people
Yeah.
there and a bunch of little kids running
All right,
around and,
right.
and it's a community thing, which
Yes.
again is not normal
Right.
around the state, but it is here, which I'm
cool.
eternally grateful for.
Yeah. One last question. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Married, single, kids, anything?
Oh yeah, yep.
'Cause
So
you're going to get in trouble.
Oh, I
watching this on
will.
YouTube.
Yes, I will. So the best part and the hardest part of being a coach is being a coach's spouse. So I'm married. My wife, and it's so funny. Everything works out for a reason. So my wife and I, Caitlin, met at Northwood in Midland.
Okay.
She was a 4-year member of the softball team there. She's actually one of the softball coaches at Anchor Bay. She's been coaching high school softball for longer than I've been coaching high school baseball. She's in her 6th year at Anchor Bay. She coaches youth teams. She's very active in the community as well. And it's just funny because, again, I was so mad that I had to go to Midland, Michigan from West Palm Beach,
Got
Florida.
some out of it.
But I met my wife, know. So silver lining there. And then we have a phenomenal son, Cash. He just turned 2. He's a busy guy, but he's been to a lot of softball practices,
boy.
a lot of baseball practices. And again, it's so cool watching because there's sometimes, listen, in an off-season workout when it's not scheduled or whatever, he's with me,
there,
right? And the guys are so good with him, and her girls are on
Yes.
her team are so awesome with him. And all my guys on staff, I can drop him off to
Right.
their house and they'll watch him,
Right,
or
right.
they have watched him, and because they're those kind of men. So yeah, my son Cash, he's a trip, and my wife, I wouldn't be able to do this without her, and it's great having a wife who's a coach because she gets
Athletic-minded
Oh
and, yeah.
man, she gets the teamwork, she gets the collaboration, she understands the frustrations. There's times we'll have a tough loss. She'll come, she'll tell by the tone of my voice.
Right.
As soon as I say hello, you know what, I'll talk to you when you get home, and she
Right,
gets
right.
it. Without her support, without her, I wouldn't be coaching baseball. I don't know what I'd be doing, but it
Right.
wouldn't be coaching baseball. There's no way about it. So.
Okay. I think we covered it all.
I think so.
Number 92 is in the books. Thank you, Nick,
Thank
for
you
coming
so
in.
much. Thank you for everything you do for the community. I appreciate it.
And any other people you might know that want to come on here and be subject to these same questions, we're going
course.
to come on in. In the Zone number 92 are in the books with Nick Black, St. Clair baseball varsity coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.